Hey there, storytellers. Welcome back to another episode of Crossroads, the storyteller's journey. I'm really excited to bring you a great conversation that I had with an actor from Australia. We had just an insightful conversation about accomplishments, about failures, about just ways to improve, about saying yes to different circumstances, about agencies, about his most recent project called Sunflower. I'm really excited for you to hear about that. And yeah, if you enjoy it, please feel free to share it. Please like it. Please rate it 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and Spotify because that's how I know that you're enjoying it. I know that this is still a small podcast, but I'm really excited that you're here with me along for the ride because it is just a journey. I'm sharing Luke's journey and I'm sharing my own journey as well. But yeah, I hope that you enjoy. Please like, follow, subscribe, and here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, storytellers, welcome back to another episode of Crossroads, the Storyteller's Journey. Today we have an Aussie joining us all the way from down under, good old Australia. Luke Morgan is on the podcast. I'm really excited to talk with him, chat with him. I found him through TikTok a while ago and sent him a DM on Instagram, and here he is. We're excited to have a conversation just talking about stories, how he storytells, hearing some of the challenges he's faced as an actor, and just hear about his journey in general. So, Luke, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Welcome, welcome.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Uh,
Thanks for reaching out. I think TikTok's weird how you can just meet anyone in the world these days. It's kind of crazy.
it is crazy. I saw the very first like content of yours that I saw was one of your famous scenes where you just have those 3 videos. Super interesting format, and I'm excited to talk to you a little bit about that later and hear about where it came from because I just
Mm.
think I think it's genius because people nowadays have such short attention spans, so, like, they have to see something that's intriguing, and they have 3
Mm.
things to look at on your video, so it's super cool. I'm not sure how you got to that, but we'll talk about it in a little bit. Um,
Yeah, for sure.
but, yeah, welcome to the podcast. Something that I'd like to start out every episode with is just kinda asking the storyteller who I'm speaking with, what storytelling means to them. And if you've listened to the podcast, you'll know that that question was coming. But I know it's a very broad question. You can go anywhere with it.
Mm.
And it's just this podcast is all about understanding the journey of storytellers. So let's get to the core of it right from the get go. What does storytelling mean to you? And how do you use your love for acting as kind of like that driver for telling your story?
Mm. It is a good question. It's a hard question to answer.
Absolutely.
I think like storytelling, I mean, without sounding too, you know, whatever, it's kind of the core of who we are, right? Like we've always told stories to each other, whether it's your parents telling you stories or your grandparents or if you go back and it's like campfire stories, right? It's the
Yeah.
thing that connects us. Like, how do we feel related to other people's experiences, or how do we confirm our experience with other people? And I think that's the essence of it, right? And I've been fortunate enough to discover that through filmmaking and through acting. Um, and like, growing up, it was always more of a fascination around like what is it like to put these two kind of images together, and what is that saying? And I don't think I really knew at the time. Like, you kind of
Yeah.
just putting stuff together and outputting, and then your mum laughs, or like,
Mhm.
your dad says, "Good job," and do it again. Or, you know, I remember I made my dog fly like over the family house by like, filming my dog, and I cut it out, green screened it, and like animated him over the house. And I was like, "Look at the dogs flying," or whatever. My mum always brings it up. But I think that my
How
point
old were
is
you when
like,
you did that?
I don't know, like 12, 13,
That's
I think.
awesome. That's, like, the
Yeah.
age where everyone started to make their, like, fun little videos because they discovered that they can do something with a camera and, like,
Yeah.
be creative, so that's pretty cool.
I wish I still had it, because like, it was do you remember those old, like, digital cameras? They were mainly for photos, but you could record, like, 30 seconds or a minute
Yeah,
video on it or something like that.
yeah.
It was one of those, and I wish I had it, 'cause it's probably awful, but in my mind, it's super cool. I can't really remember. But I guess my point is, like, somewhere along the way, I think I realized that, like, it's more about the technicality. Like, the technical skills are great. I can make my dog fly, the shot looks good, the lighting's immaculate, or whatever that might be. But it just became about, like, what am I trying to say here? Am I
Mhm.
trying to make someone laugh? Used to do a bit of comedy. Am I trying to, tell a story about what love feels like? And
Mhm.
most of the time, it's just coming from your own experience. And I think when you say something from your own experience, it often connects with an audience because people are looking to relate, and the human experience is kind of relatable. Yeah.
Yeah. The human experience is, I would say, very relatable because we're out
Yeah,
here
we're all
doing
human.
we're out here doing it, right? Yeah,
Exactly.
that's awesome. I mean, storytelling, it's at the nature of, like, it's in our nature. It's who we are. Like,
Mm,
early days when people were just, going about their days, like, surviving, they left their marks. Like, they told their story, and we still hear about some of those stories nowadays. And even, like, not too long ago, like, you still hear about the stories that happened. And I think it's storytelling is something that's just been here through the ages, and it's
totally.
it's only evolved. Like, we've only found new ways of telling stories. And um theater's obviously been a huge part in storytelling because it's been a spectacle and something of entertainment for people to go to for, like, centuries now. And I mean, I've done a little bit of studying with, like, Greek theater and all that older things like commedia dell'arte, like that kind of thing. But
Mm,
it's like it's evolved so much, and here we are now. You're an actor, you're a filmmaker, you do a lot of the scenes that you shoot, like, it's you shooting them, it's you acting in them, like, you're taking initiative, and it's
mm,
just something that's super cool. And I mean, I always commend the storytellers that come on the podcast for, taking initiative and saying yes. That's, like, a huge part of, um I guess, like, what I'm about. Obviously, like, we were talking about the Yes Theory shirt before we started
yeah.
recording. But yeah, storytelling, obviously it's been around for a while. But the interesting thing is, like, with acting, is if you're taking on another persona, you're taking on someone else's character, you have to, do the character development yourself, like, kind of figure out what that character is all about, where they came from, their story. So do you see, like, storytelling through another character to, like, be different from what you as a person consider storytelling to be? Like, whenever you're thinking of um an actor, I mean, not an actor, a character that you're trying to portray, are you thinking about, like, okay, like, what's their story?
Yeah, totally. I think, like, just for your audience as well, you found me on TikTok, and I think it's like a snapshot of my acting, right? Like,
Yeah,
I'm an
absolutely.
actor in a traditional sense as well. Like, I've done a few feature films and
Mhm.
things that are, like, in the background, kind of bubbling away, and hopefully we'll get, like, cinematic releases and all of that. Where TikTok's this, like, short fix kind of rapid fire kind of realm, right? It's just a different medium. So
Mhm.
totally, like, when you're embodying a character, it always comes back to, like, what's the story, right? Like, often, like, when I read a script or whatever, it's, it's like, what is this? What is it that I'm connecting to? And then I just start thinking about why, right? So if I'm connecting to a certain aspect of the character that I think's relatable, I just have to find and trust that everyone else is going to find it relatable. It's a selfish endeavor in a way because it's like I'm acting and I'm finding it through me, like, but I'm the instrument, right? I'm the guitar.
Mhm.
So when the audience sees that, it's not really up to me whether or not they find it relatable and what the story is that they want to view or whatever. So
Yeah.
totally, like, when I'm looking at a character, it's like, what's their story? And then you connect to that on a personal level, and then all the kind of character traits or the flares and the things, they're kind of like little flavors that you add in to, like, you know, where are they from, what's their upbringing, what's their aesthetic, like, how do their clothes, like, all of that. I'm so intrigued because I
Mhm.
think it all aids to that story, right? Like,
Yeah.
who are they? What are they
Yeah.
doing? Where are they from? Whether that's accent or, and it's the same with filmmaking, right? It's like you're still telling a story, but it's like, how are we going to shoot it? How are we going
Mhm.
to edit it? Like, all these things kind of inform each other.
Yeah,
But,
absolutely.
you know, coming back to the storytelling, it's like whether it's an old myth from the ancient Greeks or the Bible or you're reading a children's book, it's all storytelling through different mediums, and it's just different kind of bells and whistles that, achieve the same thing, I think.
Yeah. It's interesting to think about storytelling in, like, the technical filmmaking sense because, like, how can a cinematographer, like, tell a story through the way that they're shooting something? Like, there's plenty of ways to do that, and I'm taking a couple of film courses at my school, and I've taken some in the past, but the ones I'm taking now, there's one about just Hollywood and,
Mhm.
just kind of the different ways that Hollywood portrays itself in different eras, different decades, and so we started, with Sherlock Jr. I'm not sure if you've seen that film, and
No, I
then
haven't.
there's another one called The Star Is Born, which you've probably, heard of the Lady Gaga one, but we watched,
Yeah,
the one from
the Barbara
1937.
Streisand one? Oh, okay,
No,
yeah, yeah.
so older than that with Janet Gaynor. Um,
Mhm,
but we were watching and seeing how, like, Hollywood portrays itself, and it's just so interesting, how I just wondered to myself, like, was the cinematographer really thinking, like, that this is what they wanted the audience to get from this, or were they just filming this because it looked good? So I feel like it's sometimes an interesting thing as an audience member, if you're trying to dissect what's going on, you're like, "Am I taking this too far? Like, am I adding to the story by what I'm perceiving from it, or am I actually just understanding what the story's about?" So it's just kind
mm.
of like an interesting
I
thing
think
that
both,
we talk about.
like,
Yeah.
it's totally both, like but it also just comes from experience, right? Like, if I'm gonna go look back at my old stuff from when I was 12, I can see there's no sense of form. Like, my
Mm,
framing's probably bad. Yes, I made my dog fly over the house, and I told that story, but excuse me, and I told that story, but there's probably no specificity in the shots and the editing and the timing and all these things. I think as you grow as an artist, whether that is a cinematographer or an actor, you're only getting, I don't want to say better, but you're only evolving, you're only adding
mm,
tools to your tool belt. And at a certain point, I think it becomes muscle memory, right? Like,
yeah,
I'm not thinking like necessarily about like how do I explain this? Like, I'm not necessarily thinking about like I'm going to shoot a low angle to make this person look powerful. It's almost
yeah,
instinctual to me at this point that like
mm,
I understand the story that the character is powerful, and I'm kind of just using every element, whether that's lighting, shots, editing, to inform the audience that that is the case, or to subvert them. And
yeah,
I'm thinking like I'm not nowhere near on a Hollywood pro level, but I'm thinking these guys and girls at the top really understand that on a instinctual basis, but
mm,
they also have the ability to take a step back and articulate what they're doing as well. And I think that's the balance, right? So whether it is a mistake or instinct or purposeful, I think it's all within them somewhere, whether or
yeah,
not they know it. Otherwise, that's why you have these people at the top that are just incredible.
yeah,
They know what they're doing for sure.
yeah, yeah. It's like, sure, they've had so much experience up to this point, and they know what they're doing, obviously, and it is instinctual. So it's not like they see themselves as something incredibly special all the time because it's to them it's just instinctual, and they're like, I'm just doing what I know how to do and what I've learned. So,
Mm,
um, kind of going into another little topic. So I'm not sure if it was in your, so I know that you are with Duke Actors Management. So, like, is that like an agency?
mm.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
it's an actor's agency.
cool. So I know you're with that agency, and I went onto their website and kind of found, like, your like, little, I guess you could say, like, your little bio, like the things you've been in, all that kind of stuff. And I don't remember if it was in here or if it was somewhere else where I read how you were still kind of searching for your voice, or like your art, like what your art is. Um
Mm.
I that might not have been updated, and maybe you're like a pro and you're like, "Pff, I know what my art is at this point." But I know you, like you said, we're all evolving. So, like, in this moment, like, as we're having this conversation, like, what is your art?
Yeah, man. It's deep.
I know. We're getting
It's
deep here, Luke.
It's a couple things, man. It's like, honestly, it's just it's evolved, right? It's always been fun. And not that it's not fun anymore, but it got to a point where you understand it so much that you kinda have to keep pushing yourself, right? So let's take the TikToks, for example. Like, I kinda have no idea what I'm doing. Like, it might not look like that, and I know that some of them get some views and stuff, but, like, honestly, I'm just creating what I wanna make. Like, I'm thinking about audience after the fact. I'm thinking, "Okay, how can I make this a little bit more engaging? How can I, if I just trim the start, make the hook this, maybe it's gonna get more views, right?"
Mhm.
Because my goal with TikTok is just to get larger exposure so I can transition into film and go to Hollywood. So, but the ironic thing is during this process, I'm falling in love with it, and I'm finding that I actually love doing it for myself.
Yeah.
Not in a selfish sense, just in a sense of like I can do it on my own. I don't need Hollywood's validation. I don't need to be a movie star. Like I'm genuinely finding that I like writing my scenes and whatever it is, and work with other people now. And it's something about that that is artistic to me because
Mm.
and what I mean by like I haven't found my art yet is I feel like I'm experimenting, and maybe that is what art is. Like I don't maybe I should never know what I'm doing, and I feel like maybe that's probably art because what
Yeah.
is art? Like it's just self expression, right? So
Absolutely. That's I mean, you said it earlier how, everyone's always evolving and how they're telling their story and how, they're conveying who they are or conveying their experience. It's always there's always an evolution happening in your technique and your ability and experience. So, I think that that's really cool that you found enjoyment in it, like a sense of accomplishment, a sense of meaning in, editing and posting those things and like, not even figuring out what people want, but just figuring out what you want and figuring out how you want to convey that to people. Because if you figure out what you want and you're conveying it to an audience, like that audience is going to find you. The audience
Mm,
that is interested in what you've got going on, like they're going to find you. The people that are looking for that short story in a 30-second, 60-second, however long video, like, they'll find it and they'll say, "Wow, like, this really hit me." Like, I saw a TikTok earlier today that was I think it was, like, 15 seconds, and I was like, "Wow." Like, this just like,
was it
this hit
reciters?
me. Say what?
Was it reciters TikTok?
I don't remember. I think I liked it,
Oh,
actually.
was it
Let
the
me actually
girl like
see.
whispering in the ear? He's like listening to a song.
Yeah!
Yeah,
That
reciter.
was
I love
dude,
his
that was
stuff,
it.
dude.
Oh
Yeah,
my
that stuff got to
gosh.
me straight away this morning, and he is on another level. Like I'm yet to connect with him. I really want to connect with him, but he just has this ability to like convey such a simple idea, but then it once you think about it, it just opens up so many windows,
Yeah.
doors, and like that's the golden spot for TikTok because you don't have an hour to tell your feature film script. You have 15, or as long as you want, really.
Yeah.
I think you can go up to 10 minutes, but
Good
mostly like
luck with that.
keep keeping it under a minute's good for TikTok,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
15 seconds is the best. And if you can tell a compelling story in 15 seconds, that's so hard.
Mhm.
It's very hard. And he's very good at it. And I'm super jealous.
Well, dude, you get like, who's to say you haven't got there yet? Like, that's how I found you. Is I found a video that was like maybe 40, 45 seconds. I saw like one that you posted during Halloween, I think, or in the fall with the pumpkin. And I was like, oh, this is just like super fun to watch. Like, it's edited well. Like the like, I'm not even I don't do my own, like, color grading or anything like that. I know very minimal about it, but the just how it looks, it looks great, and similar to how the TikTok that we're both, like, talking about here is, like, it looks great there, like, people just wanna see good footage
Mm.
like, expressed in a particular way that conveys a story, and, I mean, that's what I see you're doing, so, I mean, yeah, be jealous that that happened, but, like, dude, you're doing it too. Like, come
I
on, you
guess like
gotta look at the
no,
mirror
I
and
think
say, "You're doing it too."
I guess jealousy is the wrong word. I'm not jealousy is like, you know, I think I'm more envious. Like I just
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Like, I'm not necessarily like,
Yeah, yeah.
um, down that I didn't come up with that idea. I think just like, it's great. I look up to
You're
it,
like, "Man,
and
I wish I came up with that."
yeah, like something like, oh, just like, yeah, like cool. I've still got more to learn. I can still grow. Like,
Absolutely.
and I think that's important. Like, you know, I know that my art's evolved, and like it's obvious that, I'm getting some traction and some people are watching it, and the validation's great. But it's genuinely like, I post a video and a week later I can see all its flaws, and not in a negative
Mhm.
way. I'm not like, oh no, no, no. I'm just like, cool, next
Improving
one.
upon, yeah.
Yeah, like every time, and it's not getting precious about it, and that's what I love about TikTok as well. Is you don't have to be precious.
Mhm.
You could post the same video 15 times and no one would care.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's a that's putting it in a great way because, like, when you think of a YouTube video that's maybe, like, 15 minutes and it's like a video essay about any given topic, you're like, you work super hard on this and you post it, you know, it's up to the masses, it's up to the people whether or not it, goes well. But with
Mm,
TikTok, it's like you can figure out a different time of day, you can figure out different hashtags if you wanna try those, you can, try to
yeah.
collaborate with people, so it's super cool, and we'll talk a little bit more about social media here in a second, but let's talk a little bit about your career, like, as, an independent actor, well, I guess you're with an agency now, but, you're as an actor with limited following, where did your love for acting come from?
Yeah, I think it comes back from that storytelling thing, but it was I just growing up, like, loved movies. Like, we would watch a movie every night nearly with my dad. Loved,
Yeah.
like, we would watch, like, a lot of Mission Impossible, and, like, Star Wars was massive for us as a family. Back to the Future, like, I think I've seen the Back to the Future trilogy, I reckon 50 times. Like, that's a lot.
That's yeah.
And the first one
Jeez.
100 times. Like, I'm probably being a bit hyperbolic, but I've seen that trilogy a lot. And, just growing up on these kind of 80s, 90s movies that my dad loved, you just develop a sense. I think those, like, like the Spielberg, George Lucas movies, they really hit home for me because of just the sense of wonder and the sense of nostalgia, or
Mhm.
this sense of magic that
Yeah.
live in those films. It really sends your imagination wild as a kid. And for some reason, I just loved being a performer. Like, I connected to that on some level. Like, I think on top of watching Back to the Future, I've seen the behind the scenes DVD of Episode 3 Star Wars probably 100 times. So I used to just love, like watching how they made the lightsaber, or like
Mm.
practicing the lightsaber fight, or like, yeah, just I often me and my friend talk about film making and acting. It's like a magic trick, right? Like, the audience don't know how it's done. They just
Mhm.
left. They leave in wonder and awe, or questioning, whatever. That's kind of, or enjoyment, entertainment, whatever it is. It's like a magic trick. So
Yeah.
I remember I used to be obsessed with magic too. I used to learn how to do magic tricks. I used to do it at school, and like,
Me too.
I was the, yeah, dude. Honestly, every like great director had a magic phase. I'm being dead serious. Like I think
Really?
who's yeah, like I could be getting this super wrong, but like
I'll fact check you.
Sam fact check me, yeah, like Sam Raimi, and like a lot of directors love magic for some reason. There's something connected there. And I think um, movie making is magic, right? It's a magic trick. You're putting a bunch of images together and creating the illusion of reality and dropping the audience into that, right? So I think it was when I left high school, I was making a few videos, a few skits and things like that. And I didn't know what else to do. So I was like, I'm just going to go study filmmaking.
Mhm.
So I went to Perth, which is the most isolated city in the world, as you know,
Yes.
and they do have a university there.
It's
And
not that isolated, it's got a university, like, give it some
yeah,
respect.
no, Perth's the best place in the world. But I studied filmmaking, but I dropped out in my third year just because I'm not very good at like school and education. It's just not for me.
Mhm.
But I was just continued making films. I was making skits, making short films. Nothing like amazing, right? This is all for like early days of the internet or
Portfolio.
into the ether. Yeah, and like I don't even know what I was doing
Not
back
even
then.
that. Okay, gotcha.
Collaborating with people or whatever, and then um, we were making this comedy show, and it was doing well on Facebook, and I was like, oh, I'm really loving the acting, like because I was acting in it,
Mhm.
and I was like, I'm gonna let the filmmaking go for a bit and just focus on acting. And that was 2018, and I did a bunch of short films, student films with people I knew, or was just trying to get cast in some stuff. And then I was lucky enough to book a independent feature film. Um, and then at the end of that year, I auditioned for Whopper, which is famous for Hugh Jackman went there.
Okay.
He did the 3-year acting course there, um, where I got in, and I got in doing the screen diploma,
Mhm.
which is only 1 year. I did that, and then I moved over east to pursue acting more seriously. And then I did another, and then COVID hit, so I did nothing for 2 years. But
Wonderful.
during COVID, that's when I started messing around with TikTok, and I was not taking it seriously at all. I was kind of just making little videos and things like that, and then did another feature film, did another couple of short films, got representation with an agent,
Mhm.
started auditioning properly, right? Like, so now I'm auditioning for TV shows and movies that are shooting here, and I'm living in this kind of weird world where, like, sorry, then I started making TikToks and it starts going well, and the feature film I shot, which was independent, is now doing well. It's got distribution, we got funding, and I'm living in this weird world. I'm like, everyone told me to get an agent and audition for movies, but it seems like every time I just do something on my own, it works out way more.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of in this space now where, like, I'm going to audition for movies and stuff when they come up. Like, great, that's fantastic. But you're going up against 1,000 people. You might not get chosen because you got blue eyes instead of brown eyes. And just you're in, or the other person's taller, or they're looking for diversity or whatever it is, which is fantastic, by the way. But
Mhm.
I just find, like, every time I focus on my own thing or do something independent, it just does like 10 times better. So
Yeah.
that's where I'm
So you're
kind
like,
of
"Why
sitting
not?"
now. Yeah, and I realized, like, I'm starting to realize now, like, the filmmaking and the acting are really working together well when I put them together because I have the skill set for both. But, like,
Yeah.
man, like I said, I'm still finding I don't know what I'm doing. I'm still discovering it. Like, I love making films. I love acting. I keep putting myself in my own films, but, like, I also want to experiment with just directing, just editing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a whirlwind. I don't know what to do.
No, it's very much like a I mean, it's great to be in that place because it's like just an exploration phase. It's like, when I first went started going to school, I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I was like, I'm just gonna do it's called exploratory. It's literally just a
Okay,
major
yeah.
where you have to take your earlier credits so that you can actually graduate in the end,
Mm,
and they're not like specific towards any one like study. And
yeah,
I did that and it gave me some time to kind of like figure out what I liked. And then I like chose marketing and like, here I am, I'm really enjoying it. But it's very similar to that. It's like, I'm just gonna do what I love right now. I'm gonna like audition for films if like they intrigue me and they're looking for someone similar to me. I'm gonna make the films that are the stories that I want to tell. I'm going to continue putting my stuff out on Instagram and TikTok and wherever else and like just see what comes from that because I mean anything can happen in this day and age. Like you can be approached by anybody at any time for being anything on
dude.
social media. Like it's crazy.
I feel like I'm not even that old. I'm 27, but
Uh-huh.
like something's changed in the last 3 to 4 years. Like, even I've noticed it. I mean, the world's noticed it. It's something to do with TikTok for sure. But there's this element of, like, we don't need the permission from whoever that is, whatever industry, right? I'll speak about my industry because I understand it. But, like, it's I don't want to call it gatekeeping, but, like, I think it's just because of how it's set up and how hard it is to get a show made and then getting cast. You're going up against 1,000, 2,000 people. Like, the odds are just stacked against you as an actor. Um, it's one of the hardest industries. If you're just an actor, like it's so hard, not because um, it's not even because of the rejection. It's because of how hard it is to. Well, I guess it is rejection. Like
Yeah.
it's so hard to break through that. Like anyway, I'm digressing. Right now, we're living in a stage where you can put something online and it can get 1 million views, like tonight.
Like you've seen that
Like
happen.
that's I've seen it happen. It's happened to me, and it's like now I'm like, okay, I'm all in. Like I'll double down on TikTok. Like it's obvious to me. Every actor, every filmmaker, you can make content about any niche should be figuring out a way of how to put it online because you can create a niche market, and if you want, you can monetize it, and you don't have to rely on a casting agent or an agent or a director to put you in their film. Yeah, it's great. We've all grown up. We want to be famous. We want to be in movies, but the times are changing. Like, most of young Hollywood are TikTokers.
Yeah.
like it, and it's not necessarily. I don't want to discredit the art of cinema because I think it is different. It's not what TikTok is right now, and
Mhm.
it's not what a lot of content is. There's an art form to it, and to pull
Sure.
that off on that larger scale is super difficult, super expensive, and you need a lot of people. I think there's just a new medium being birthed right now, and if you are fed up with the old system, jump on the new system because it's a gold rush.
It's 1849. In
Yeah, dude.
America, we had the gold rush of 1849, and that's where the football team, the 49ers, came from. So there you go.
It's
A little bit of
happening right now.
yeah, a little bit of American history for you. Um, let's see. I've got so many questions, but I'm not going to get to
Hit
all of
him.
them.
No,
Um,
get to him. Let's do it.
so Duke Actors Management.
Mm,
Um, I interviewed a guy named Dan Brothers uh, a few episodes ago, over the summer, actually last year. And he's a filmmaker in Northampton, in the UK, and he uh, was telling me about his experience with an agency, with a management company. What's your experience been like as an actor who, obviously you have your own ambitions and dreams, and you see this opportunity to join this group of people who are also in a similar, arena as you. How have you seen your, joining that group as like something that's helped you in your career? And is it something that you would recommend other people do if they have the opportunity, or do you think it's kind of just like a case by case basis?
yeah, I think it's case by case for sure. Like, basically, Duke Actors is my agent, right? So,
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much you know about acting agents, and it might be different in America a little bit. But
Well, how is it in
um,
Australia?
so basically, like, if you have a TV show or a movie, let's take. Do you know any Australian TV shows or movies off the top of your head? No, there's not many.
I couldn't name one. If listen, you tell me like a popular one and I'll just go ahead and like
So, like,
search
I
it
think
up.
like Neighbors or Home and Away is like the big soap opera here, right? It's like your um, Bold and the Beautiful, right?
Okay, gotcha.
It's that kind of vibe. So
Soap
let's just take
opera.
that for example. There's other stuff. Other stuff gets made. Like we get gritty narrative, drama, and bit of Australian comedy and things like that. Will get made here all the time. So basically, if you want to get on one of those shows, you have to get an audition. So the auditions are held by the casting directors who have been hired by the show or the production company to find all the actors for that show. So then they'll send out all their briefs to all the agents in Australia. And then it's up to my agent to submit me for that role. And then they're looking at 100,000 headshots and they go, we want that guy, that guy, that guy, that guy, that guy, that guy to audition for this role. I might not even get selected at that point. But then if I am selected, I then have to do an audition and then I have to do a callback and then I might
Mhm.
go to another callback and then I might get the role.
Okay. I'm
So,
pretty sure it's very similar to how it is in the States.
okay, cool.
I feel like it's kind of just makes sense as like a standard way of doing things when you're casting. So what's the
So
next step?
it's not necessarily like, yeah, but nothing against the process
Mhm.
per se, because that is probably the most efficient way to do it from a casting perspective.
Mhm.
But from an actor's perspective, it seems almost impossible.
It's
So
so
like,
limiting.
yeah, I think talent is necessary. luck is necessary, but only if you're ready to seize the opportunity, right? So, um, so what often happens is you just see these people just randomly just skyrocket. They're on this big
Yeah.
TV show, then they book this other thing, and obviously once you book a TV show, you're good, right? You can people see they want you in that project, and you're done. It's just
Mhm.
that first breakthrough is incredibly hard, and I haven't managed to do it yet. So, my uh, so having an agent's necessary if you want to, like, if you're just an actor, having an agent is completely necessary. It's the only way you're gonna get work, other than meeting independent people and making something on your own and
Mhm.
hoping that it does well, right? So, yeah, I love my agent. She's the best. It's You need to have a relationship that you like because, um, it's hard. You're gonna have 30 auditions a year and you might not book a single one of them. And it's
Yeah.
not because you have no talent. It's just because they're looking for someone else, and it's a case by case basis. That
Mhm.
audition, you can't compare to that audition because you're up against different people, might be different production, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, it's just there's an element of luck. I don't wanna say luck, but, like, there's an element of just randomness to it that you can't predict, and that can be
Yeah.
incredibly frustrating when you're trying to create a career. So you gotta fall back in love with the art, because
Mm.
if you're here, it just might not happen. It just doesn't happen for some people. I don't wanna be negative, but, like,
It's just the reality
um
of it.
yeah, but also it could happen for you. Like, that's the beauty of it. Like, I could book a Netflix show tomorrow,
That's
and
what brings you back to it, isn't it? Like, part of the reason, at
yeah.
least, is because 'cause you're like, if I put myself out there, at least there's a chance. If I don't put myself out there, if I get discouraged and, I feel like I did really well in an audition, or even made it to a callback and you feel like, "Oh, this is it, like, this is my chance." And if it doesn't happen for whatever reason, it's like, first of all, obviously you made it that far, so there's a reason why you made it that far. And second of
Mm,
all, I can't get like if this knocks me down and I don't get back up, there's no chance of it ever happening. So, I feel
totally.
like that's like the mindset you've gotta have.
Yeah, and I'm only scratching the surface because I only started, like, acting in the industry, like, having an agent and stuff in 2019, 2020, right?
Mhm.
And then the pandemic happened for 2 years where there was nothing really happening. If you're a brand new actor on the scene, you're not really getting any work. They're kind
Yeah.
of only hiring people that are established because no one has work. There's limited work, right?
Mhm.
So I've only really had like 1 to 2 years in the industry.
Mm.
And I've had some wins, I've had some callbacks, and
Yeah.
I've booked some commercials and done some short films, and, like, the writing's on the wall.
Mhm.
It can just be hard when you look at your career, and I feel like I've been doing this for a decade because I
Yeah.
kinda have, just for myself. But bringing it back to TikTok, I think that's where it's so beautiful. Like, we're living in a time where we don't have to rely on the system that's built. We can kinda, like, and look, I'm fortunate that I'm a filmmaker. I can make nice shots, and I can edit together to make it look like a little bit of a movie.
Yeah.
But you can, if you're an actor, just put your iPhone up on a tripod and do a monologue to camera, or, like, just take 2 shots, shoot your friend, and edit together like a scene. Like, there's so many. It's not that difficult. I think. Like,
Yeah.
you don't have to do this insane production. Like, TikTok's actually prefers more lo-fi,
Mhm.
um, average kind of person creator vibes, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
just plug your niche in and go. Like, it's such a big opportunity there. Yeah.
That's it's crazy how much opportunity we have with, like, this
Oh,
with
it's
all the social
nuts.
media we have. It's insane, and it's really just the biggest part is, like, the mental battle in, like, posting your first thing. You're posting your first scene or posting your first monologue. It's like, yeah, sure, like, maybe I'll post my first one, but, like, what about the ones after that? It's like, you gotta continue taking steps towards, like, what you wanna achieve, and to know what steps you have to take, you kinda have to know what you want to achieve. So it's like, especially in an industry like filmmaking or acting, just I mean, filmmaking in general, it's interesting because you're like, well, like, what do I want to achieve? I want to book a big role. Like, that's what you want to achieve. Like, most people, I would say, is probably like that's their goal. But it's like, well, maybe like you say, like, let me achieve booking a short film. Like, let me achieve putting together a short film with my friends or like people that I know or people that are um like in my area that are also actors like trying to make it. Like what if I just put myself in a group of people who want to do the same thing? Then we're all contributing towards each other's success and it's like a rising tide floats all ships. It's like you just have to
Totally.
choose the small wins, choose the things that you're like the things that you can say, "Oh, I can achieve that." There goes my light. I
Yeah, like the cliche, like the rising, like cliches are a cliche for a reason, right?
yeah.
And simplicity is often the key. Like I think it's what's the saying? It's like think macro, act micro. So like, okay, I want to book a Netflix show. I want to be the biggest movie star in the world, whatever that goal is for you, right? And then you just go, what do I have to do every day to achieve that? I'm going to
Yeah.
make a, I'm going to make one TikTok a week for a year, a
Mhm.
cinematic TikTok for a year. That's like one of my goals, right? And it's like, okay, how do I do that? I'm going to set aside time to write a script, storyboard, shoot, and edit. So that might be, a day or two over a week in terms of like
Mhm.
I'll do an hour that day, 2 hours that day, shoot for 2 hours. I'm about to edit for 4 hours after I jump off this call. And then I'll have a TikTok ready tomorrow.
Mhm.
And if I do that for a year, what happens? I don't know, but I know if I don't do that, nothing happens. So
Yeah.
I'm only taking one step closer to that big goal. Um, so there's nothing wrong with having big goals. I think you just kind of have to have an action plan. And in saying that, you don't even have to have a detailed action plan. Just do something.
Uh-huh.
Just do something every day that is a step forward.
Yeah.
Um,
Something's better
you
than
know,
nothing.
read a script. Just compose a really nice looking shot. Um, take your last 10 videos on your iPhone and figure out a way how to make a story editing that. Like there's so many ways you can just like keep
That's a cool thing you can do. It's just like 10 random videos that are in your in
yeah,
your
what
photo
happens? I
album.
don't know.
Like
Mine's
let's
all
try to
just
tell a
BTS.
story. Oh yeah.
What's
You could tell a
mine?
story through that. I saw you recently posted that like I think it was like a 2022 recap and some things that you did.
Yeah.
Pretty cool video. I like that one.
Yeah, I think I'm trying this year to loosen up a little bit on TikTok. Like I think,
Hmm.
I think that's the beauty. Like you got Instagram, it was and is this kind of polished platform, whereas TikTok is just like bananas. You can kind of post anything on there.
Oh
And I
yeah.
still had that. I'm still a bit precious about it, like about making sure it's looks a certain way. I think if I just take the leg off a little bit, I think it's going to be better for everything.
I mean, you're posting some great content and I enjoy it. I know there's a lot of other people that enjoy it, but I mean, let yourself loose and try other
Mm,
things out. Like you said, you're in an experimenting sort of part of your life and your career, so it's like this is the time to do it, right?
mm,
Nothing I mean, it's not like you're going to ruin your career by posting something that doesn't do well or something that doesn't get a ton of hits or that, maybe people don't enjoy so much because there is someone out there that will enjoy it. So maybe
yeah,
it's just that the right
totally.
person hasn't found you yet. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think I enjoy your content a lot and kind of circling back to what I mentioned before with your format that you really love with the those like three shots that you've got stacked on top of each other and you're telling a story through that. Where did that originate from? Like, where did that idea come from? Because it's definitely not something that I've seen a ton of other people do. I'm not sure if you saw someone do it and you're like, "Oh, I could do that." But yeah, where did that idea come from?
Yeah, it's not my idea, unfortunately. I definitely, uh, I definitely stole it. I don't want to say stole it. Like, yeah,
Utilize it.
I saw a creator doing it, and I thought it was brilliant. And like, I think it does trouble me a little bit. Like, you know, y TikTok is very like replicatable, right? Like the whole platform's based on trending sounds and trends and things, and
Yeah.
kind of just rip each other off, right? And I don't in a traditional sense of like, if someone stole my movie idea or whatever, I think there's just something collaborative about TikTok. But in the cinematic niche, it can feel like stealing sometimes. So at the time, I wasn't thinking that TikTok was this big thing for me. It was this place to experiment, and and just have some fun. That wasn't necessarily like I'm trying to steal ideas, but like I might just mimic an idea that I think looked great because I want to try and replicate that. And I think it's actually a really good place to start
Mhm.
as a creator or a filmmaker is just rip someone off. Like go make shot for shot reshoot a scene from Quentin Tarantino's film or something. You'll just learn so much trying to make it look the same.
Yeah.
Um, and so the same thing happened to me. I stumbled across someone that was doing the three stacks, telling really awesome cinematic stories or short
Mhm.
stories. And I was like, that's awesome. And they did one that was just like a camera test. I was like, I can do that. I've got a window, I've got a camera, and I was like, I need to just start doing creative stuff because I was at a point where I wasn't doing anything creative, waiting for the phone to ring, and I was like, I'm just going to do it. And then it did really well on TikTok, and I was like, oh shit, let's do it again. Did something else. Okay, how do I tell a bit more of a story, like maybe a bit of dialogue?
Yeah.
That happens. Okay, let's do some effect. And then that happens. All right, let's recreate. I think I recreated a scene from Her. That was my first one that went really, really big. I think it did like 300,000
Yeah.
views or something. And then
Mhm.
I was like, oh, okay, there's something. I like something here.
I got
And
it
so
pulled up.
quickly, yeah, so quickly, what went from copying or mimicking someone, I've really tried to embellish with my own style, and now I'm really trying to incorporate the acting because I think at first it was just filmmaking,
Yeah.
and like I said, I'm still discovering it, but there's so many ideas in there off other creators because, you know, I think Meryl Streep says, "I go to the theater to steal." She watches other actors and steals little things, and she makes them her own, and you'll
Mhm.
never know because she changes it a little bit, but
Yeah, for sure.
she's
She makes it
sh
her own.
she's, the accumulation of 100 different things from other actors, and it's what makes her great.
Yeah.
Um, so I think, yeah, and the three stacks awesome for that platform, and I'm actually thinking about changing it because I think it's great, but I don't want to limit myself to that.
Yeah.
But it's awesome because you can kind of stack three images on top of each other, and the audience kind of chooses the cut, right?
They
Um,
choose which one they
and you,
wanna watch.
yeah, and it's more interactive, I guess. It changes from person to person. Um, and I'm getting a little bit more of a style from it. Like the middle kind of becomes the through line narrative, and the top and the bottom are more like inserts and flares and moments that might be interesting and might give some
Mhm.
extra context or things like that. So yeah, it's an interesting format, TikTok. And I saw they just introduced you can full screen on there now. Have you seen that?
On TikTok?
Yeah, so like I don't know how to do it yet, but I need to experiment. But I think if you upload just a 16 by 9 image
Uh-huh.
of a video, you can it, it'll come up with a full screen button. You can tap it and it'll be full screen. So
Oh.
I don't know what that means for me
I don't know if I've seen that
yet.
before. Yeah, it's definitely something
Yeah.
to check out because usually the features that they add are like the ones that they push in the algorithm. And it's all about the algorithm. It's like it sucks because you can be making some great stuff and it takes a while for people to find you. If aren't doing your part in the whole algorithmic equation. But like you know, if you have a sense of what you're doing, if you know a little bit about what you're doing, like you can definitely find some people out there to find your stuff. Like my TikTok has like just over 100 followers, and I'm like, well, that's because I hadn't posted anything for like 5 months. Like I was dead on there. But like now I started seeing like 2,000 views here on like on YouTube Shorts, and I'm like, okay, like once people start seeing this, the longer they stay, the longer the algorithm's gonna say, oh, they like this content. Next time he posts, it's coming up on your For You
Mm.
page. So it's like
Yeah.
it's all about consistency, which that's been preached 100 times by people who are on social media. That's kind of at the core of what it's all about. And here you are saying every week, gonna try to post something for the year and see what happens.
Yeah, I think consistency is important, but also, you know, don't burn yourself out. Like it
Yeah,
depends on the content, right? If you have the ability to produce something a day, then do it. Like mine takes me a week, 2 weeks,
sure.
but that's still consistent, you know, on a macro level. And it's just I don't I wouldn't no one understands the algorithm, I don't think. I don't for sure.
I
But as long as your audience kind of knows somewhere, oh, like every 2 weeks, Luke uploads a video, even if
Hmm.
they know that or not, just every 2 weeks they get a served a bit of my content. At
Yeah.
some point, they're gonna expect it or just be ready for it, or yeah, like I don't
Or it
know, but if
pops
the
up and they're
algorithm,
like, "Oh, this is that guy." That's what they'll
yeah,
say.
or if the algorithm is like, uh, I lost my train of thought. If the algorithm's like noticing that every 2 weeks people are engaging with that account, like I think that is the same thing, right? It
Hmm.
knows that because I don't think TikTok necessarily discriminates or is pushing, different content. I think it's yeah, definitely more about just how often and how consistent does that audience engage. And if it's
Yeah.
positive every time, you just get pushed for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely. And you're doing a great job at that. Um, but now let's talk a bit about the work that you've done. So, we won't talk about everything because there is quite a bit on your little bio. I know some of them are,
Mhm.
just short. Some of them are short films, and you're like, oh, that was just kind of a small project, but
Yeah,
still,
yeah, yeah.
Um, so the couple of feature films that you've worked on, I know you just finished, or maybe not just finished, but there's Sunflower that
Mhm.
got uh filmed, and then The Crossing from a couple of years ago. Those are like the couple that I found that were kind of like bigger in terms of like what
Mm.
um was
They're proper
released.
feature films, so
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. So I mean, I know you want to kind of like talk a little bit about Sunflower. How did the process for that film work? Was it all same thing through your agency and you got the whole callbacks and then you eventually made it, you got the role, or was it a different process for that film?
Yeah, no, like I said, like I haven't had a lot of commercial success with an agent and the traditional platform, and I can't speak to why that is. I have no idea, but often I think it's because of the lack of connection get. Like if I could sit down with a casting director and convince them why they should put me in their film, I reckon I could do it. It's just
Mm,
really hard to get that opportunity. So often I'm finding success and when I'm meeting filmmakers and stuff. So I was super fortunate to meet someone named Zane Borg. He directed a film called The Library Boys, which was
okay.
shot here in Melbourne. It's like a high school coming of age film. My friend was in it, and I just went along and um, I think there's actually a funny story, and this is a funny story of how quickly an opportunity can arise and how quickly it can be missed. So I was someone else, one of my friends was organizing tickets to go watch this movie that our friend was in, and I was like, "Yeah, yeah, get me a ticket, get me a ticket." Or like, "All right," I said, "I'll get a ticket, don't worry." And then I get a text like a week later, and I'd just forgotten it was that Friday night or whatever.
Mhm.
And my friend was like, "Have you got a ticket yet?" And I was like, "Oh no, I'll do it now." Go on, it's sold out. I'm like, "Ah, no worries, doesn't matter. Like, feel like a shit friend, but it's just an independent film. Don't worry about it."
Mhm.
A week later, the night of the filming, my friend goes, "Hey, I just got a spare ticket. Do you want to come?" And it's a it's a half an hour away from where I was working. The film started at 6:30. I have to finish work at 6 o'clock, so I've got half. It's just like it's stressful to get there. Now I could have just gone, "Ah, don't worry about it. I don't have time,"
Mhm.
but I've gone, "No, I'll go." So I go. I'm running late. I'm not dressed for a movie. I'm
Yeah.
dressed like I'm in a. It's cold Melbourne, so I'm in a big puffer jacket. My hair's crap, and I look like a mess, right? And I get in the theater. I sit down, and like I don't mean this in a bad way, but often when you go watch an independent film that has no money behind it, they're not often good.
Mhm.
And in my experience,
Okay.
and so I sit down. I go, "Here we go, impress me," kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I sit down and I watch the film. And about 5 minutes in, I'm like jaw on the floor. Like this movie is incredible for so many reasons. It's a great movie. You should check it out. It's called The Library Boys. Um, it's coming out this year, I think, finally.
Okay.
And I just like the filmmaker Zane, who's now my friend. He did a little speech at the start, and he was 23. And I'm sitting there like, how the hell did a 23-year-old make this film? It's impressive. It's great writing. The acting's amazing. For little to no money, right?
Mhm.
And so I remember in my head, I was like, I'm gonna be in his next film. I just put that in my head.
Okay.
That's what I wanted. And and then I'm not a person that goes up and like, "Hey, can I be in your next film?" Whatever. I just went up to him after and I said, "Hey, I'm Luke. That was amazing. Here's the reasons why." And I think I'm fortunate enough that I have a filmmaking background. I can articulate it. And I said, "I love that sequence. I love this. It reminded me of that movie. The comedy's amazing for this reason or whatever." He's like, "Thanks, man. Whatever. Have a little chat." I'd go mingle with my friends. I didn't say anything. And then I made an effort when I left. I went back up to him and said, "Hey, it's nice to meet you. Your film was amazing. Keep it up." And he goes, "Oh, Luke, you're an actor, aren't you?" So he must have spoken to someone. I don't know. I was like, "Yeah, yeah, I am." And he goes, "Oh, add me on Instagram. I might have something for you." And I go, "Okay, cool." And sorry, this is a super long story. And
That's fun. I'm invested. Like, I'm ready to see where this goes next.
and then so I hit him up on Instagram. I was like, "Hey, dude, thanks for whatever." Or he might have hit me up. I don't even know. Anyway, he goes, "Yeah, I'm producing a film called Sunflower. I'm not directing it, but I'm producing it. Blah blah blah. We want you to come read for a character." So I went to his house with Gabe, the director of Sunflower, met them. I read for Tony, this character called Tony, who's in the movie now. He's tiny. Like I think he's got like one line, two lines, but he's like kind of
Okay.
just there. He's like one of
I've
the
got it pulled
friends.
up on IMDb, so I'm here.
Cool, cool. So I read, and I'm just thinking at this point. I'm thinking I don't care. I don't even want to be in this movie. Just meeting these guys who are making incredible films. That's enough for me, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's important. Like I'm genuinely being serious. Like I am just being genuine. Like yes, in the back of my head, I'd love to work with these people. I want to be in the next film. All that, right? But I'm not being needy. I'm not. It's kind of just I'm not pushing. Like it's just
Yeah.
if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. That's my kind of mindset in life, right? I
Yeah.
try to when if you're pushing, it's not going to work out for you. Um. Anyway, I read the scene, get a few laughs. It's good. It's working, and they're like, "Cool, thanks for reading." And then we just ended up talking about movies for an hour. And it was
Mm.
not even about acting. It was just, and it was just like we were just connected, like because I love movies and like they love movies and we love storytelling. We just end up talking for an hour about movies. And then I was like, "Oh yeah, anyway, I'll see you later." And they're like, "Oh, we'll contact you if, or whatever." Um, and then like 6 months goes by, and I kept checking in occasionally. "Hey, how's it going? You know, like, how's the movie coming along?" And they're like, "Yeah, we're just, you know." Anyway, a couple months out of shooting, they hit me up and they go, "Hey, look, we've cast Tony, but we've just had our support pull out because it's been COVID or some reason. The guy who was playing the second lead, the support, pulled out of the movie.
Mhm.
Like, we want you to come read. We think you'd be good for it." So I come in and read for the character Buff, who um, is kind of a really integral part of the movie. He's not the lead, but he's probably the second lead and supporting cast. And I read for the character and I read with the lead, like Liam, and I audition and we do the scene a couple of times, experiment, and then we chat about movies again for an hour. And I leave, and I'm walking back to my car or whatever, and Zane, who's the producer who I met, and Gabe were chatting, and Zane goes, "Hey, thanks, man. If it doesn't work out on this one, I've written something for you." And I was like, "Okay, cool, no worries." And I go home and I'm like, "Oh, I didn't get that, but I guess he wrote something for me. That's kind of cool."
Yeah.
In my mind, I'm like, I don't even really know these guys. Like, why is he writing something? And and then I get a call the next day, and they're like, "Look, we want you to play Boof. That would be amazing if you joined the cast or whatever." And I was like, "This is insane. This is awesome."
Yeah.
Um, and then so then yeah, so then after a bunch of COVID stuff, blah blah blah, we end up shooting Sunflower at the start of last year in January. And I think my point is just like that opportunity almost didn't happen, and it has nothing to do with talent
Mm.
other than the fact that yes, once I got in the room, I could show them what I did was
Yeah.
what they wanted and needed and all that. But like
Exactly.
it's this industry. requires talent, but it's almost nothing about talent. If you want to play the business side of it, it's a different game, and I don't love it. But what I do love is just trying to find people I actually connect with, and
Yeah, absolutely.
that's the goal. Yeah.
Because yeah, at the end of the day, it's all like my last the last episode I talked to a musician named Pipe 720, and we had like a
It's
little
a
segment.
good name.
Yeah, it was yeah, it's a fun name. We were just talking about community and how important it is, how integral it is. So
So important.
it's great to hear like whether you're putting yourself out there on social media or not, like that's up to you, but you can if you put yourself out there in the people that are around you and you just like you go to auditions or even just connect with people and say, "Hey, like let's get together and like just talk about stuff." Like there's strength in numbers, and if you guys are all interested in the same thing, all kind of on the same page, it just makes it it's just an amazing thing, you know, that we like that
Yeah.
we do as humans. Is like when we're interested in something and we talk to people about it, it's just like this is living right
Mm.
here, like, you know?
And it
Um,
and it totally it comes back to that thing as well. It's like community is important, definitely, but, like, don't try and be someone you're not. Like, your community is out there somewhere.
yeah,
Whatever you are isn't like, it sounds so cliche, but, like, whatever you are is enough, and, like, once you tap into that and really discover, like, what you like and you like, I really love wrestling, like WWE.
really.
Like, it's so yeah, like, I understand how lame that can be to some people, but, like, I've come to I hit it for so many years. I was like, "Oh," like, you look at me, I'm a f actor, filmmaker, and, like, do all this arty stuff, and it's like, almost don't want people to know I'm into, like, wrestling, right? But, like, at some point, I was like, "F it," like, I actually love it for these reasons, and the more I open up about it and, when you speak from passion and from the heart, people listen, connect.
Yeah. Absolutely. When you're not being fake, like when you're not afraid to show people who you are, it's like
Mm.
that's when you're like, wow, like, you know, like, I'm proud
That's
of
when
it.
you
Like
find community, yeah.
exactly. And the more you talk about it, the less you feel like, oh, this isn't supposed to be who I am. Like the more you talk about wrestling or WWE, the more you're probably like, oh, like, I enjoyed this. I'm allowed to talk about it. I'm allowed to say that I enjoy this. Like, why would I be afraid to say, you know, blah X or Y? You know, like, why would I be
Yeah,
afraid if it's something that I love? Because,
just
yeah,
insecurity, like, you
yeah,
know, growing up, like, I cared so much about what other people thought of me, and I think that's a normal thing. Like,
hmm
you create a version of yourself for the world that's safe, and, you know, whether you got bullied or, just have someone telling you you can't do something, or you just develop all these insecurities about certain things, and,
uh huh,
whether that's, you want to be an actor, but you're too scared because you're scared what people might think. I really do believe if you just get to a point where you don't care what people think, and it sounds so easy, and, like, I know that's not that easy for everyone. I actually consider myself very fortunate and privileged to be sitting here saying that I can confidently 80% of the time say that I don't care what people think of me.
hmm
It is a bit of a superpower if you can unlock that, and, um, however you do that, I'm not sure, and I know that it's difficult for some
it's
people,
a journey
and
for a lot of people.
it's a journey, and it might take you 50 years, and, like, I meet 18-year-olds, like, I met this guy yesterday, he's an actor, he's 19, and he's the most confident, carefree, doesn't give a shit about what anyone thinks, I'm just like, "Man, if I was like you at 19, like, I can't even imagine what he's gonna be like when he's my age, he's gonna be a
Yeah,
superstar."
yeah. As long as he holds on to that and he keeps on like being himself, you know, that's what it's
Mm,
all about. And I'm sure
mm,
he's found his community if he's super confident because when you're super confident, you go out and find your community. You don't wait for them to come to you or wait for you to find someone else. Like you just make it happen.
definitely, definitely.
So yeah, like Sunflower, is that coming out this year? Is I know it's in is it still in post or are they looking to distribute it soon or what's the deal with it? Like where can the people watch it when
Yeah,
it comes out?
um, just trying to think what I can actually tell you.
Oh,
It w it's we're gonna do the festival route this year,
okay.
so, we're entering it into some major festivals, and if it goes well, you'll get some, you know, possibly American
Some more
European
info
fest.
to come.
Yeah, it's difficult for me to say just because of the deals and stuff, but we have
Absolutely.
distribution in Australia, and we're aiming for a good festival run, which will get us international distribution. So hopefully,
Okay.
whether that's cinemas or a Netflix or a streaming service release is yet
Mhm.
the details are not there yet. But what I do want to say is this film is super low budget. Like we shot this, and I say we, I didn't put any money up. I'm just in it, but I'm really good friends with them now, so I'm deeper in the process. And with further projects, I'm learning a lot. But at the time, Gabe shot this with next to no money, with no intent. Well, with that macro goal of Netflix, but shoot high and but just put the foot down. We made the film really low budget, and now we're starting to get a lot of traction, distribution, and I forget the point I was trying to make, but I think what I wanted to say was like this movie has gone so far, and if you just don't try to do something, you don't know the outcome. And this movie is a really personal story to Gabe. He got outed when he was in high school by his
Mhm.
friends, and uh, he's like a typical kind of masculine kind of guy, presenting
Yeah.
guy, and he got outed by his friends, which isn't fair. And
Mm-mm.
they took that away from him, and he didn't get to have that experience on his own accord, and he had to come to terms with it really fast. And we all know how some of the world can handle
Yeah.
people who are
React
queer
to
or
it. Yeah.
yeah, and it definitely wasn't positive for him at the time. He's come full circle, and I think he's found some closure to it. But it's a really beautiful story, and
Yeah.
I play the best friend of Leo, who's based off Gabe. So it's like a based on reality bit of fiction,
Yeah.
coming of age queer story,
That's awesome.
and I play the best friend. Yeah, I'm very passionate about it, and for me, if it isn't about sexuality, it's about how young men treat each other in any toxic sense, whether that is sexuality or the hierarchy we create, the currency
Mhm.
we create with women,
Yeah.
all these sort of toxic traits that I mean I could spend an hour talking about this, but
There's podcasts dedicated to it. I know there is.
yeah.
There's plenty you could
So
talk about.
I think this movie will connect a lot to hopefully young men, but also just a broader audience of understanding what it's like to have to grow up um, gay, and have to hide that from the world, and the pain that can cause.
Mm.
Um, like Like, imagine having a secret your whole life that you feel like if someone knew that secret, the world is over. And
Yeah.
one, you're in constant fear of that secret being found out, but then two, you have this massive weight of holding on to that secret. And
Mm.
that's, yeah, it's painful.
Yeah. I don't even know if I couldn't think of, anything in my life that like holds that much weight, you know? Like,
That was what for me. I was like, when Gabe would tell me this, I'm like, I can't even relate
mm,
to
yeah.
that other than just I can only empathize with the sadness in your eyes of how
Yeah.
hard that must be. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, and that just makes me sad that there's people out there that feel like that on a constant daily basis. Like, it just breaks my heart. So
Mhm.
that's what that movie means to me.
Yeah. That's awesome. It's like you kind of talked about at the beginning with finding your character, and when you're dissecting a new character, it's all about figuring out what their story is. And obviously in this sense, you had someone, that had an idea of what he wanted the characters to look like because he experienced it in real life. So he knows. He's like, "Okay, like this is how I felt in this moment, and this is how people were treating me. This is how, my friends were acting. This is how, just what his world looked like at the time." And he's
Definitely.
able to help you with that information. And obviously that sort of information doesn't come in every role because sometimes you just have to create it on your own, which is the beauty of it. But when you're telling a story that's based on a true story to some degree. It's like you want to make sure that it's as accurate as it can be. So that's
Totally.
yeah.
That's what acting is so beautiful, and I love working with directors for that reason, right? Because often acting only gets better with the more context you can generate for yourself, right? So having that um, experience to pull off from Gabe and just
Yeah.
being like, what was it like when this happened? Like, when they were doing X, Y, Z, what do you think they were feeling or thinking, and how did that make you feel? And then
Mhm.
that, as an actor, is completely invaluable. Like, you
Oh yeah.
almost don't have to do your work. You're just like, all right, you just take that feeling on and
Mhm.
endow it in the moment. And yeah,
Absolutely. Well, I'm excited to hopefully one day see that film, even if it's not distributed here. And I'll try to find a way to watch it because
yeah, I'll let you
obviously
know, dude.
I'm invested in your journey to see where things go from here. And I'm definitely looking forward to just kind of seeing even
I
after
think
Sunflower what else comes from your
I
endeavors.
think we have some articles coming out today.
Okay.
So they'll be on. I'll reshare them on my socials, and you can
Yeah.
have a look at them.
Yeah, and I'd be happy to link them like in the show notes because I've got like a little bio that I put in there,
Cool,
so people can easily access like IMDb and stuff like that. So,
nice.
yeah, if you're everyone listening, Luke's information, his socials are going to be in the description, as well as any articles he's talking about that relates to Sunflower or directors he's worked with, and his IMDb will be there. So any information you need to see is going to be right there. Definitely check him out on his Instagram and TikTok because he's posting some good stuff over there. And apparently he's gonna maybe change up the format a bit, so we'll see what happens there. But yeah, Luke, what's next for you, man? Like, do you have any plans coming up? Like, I mean, they could just be personal stuff, like, oh, I'm going on vacation, or if you've got some more stuff you're working on soon, like what's next for Luke Morgan?
Yeah, I think one of well, this is kind of contradictory, but one of my goals this year is to not say my goals out loud because I just think it kind of doesn't do any justice to anything. But what I will say is like I just want to keep putting out good stuff. Like I genuinely mean that. I just want to make something I love. I want to collaborate more with people, and hopefully that opens some bigger doors and bigger opportunities because I feel like I'm ready to take them and achieve them.
Yeah,
So yeah, I feel like it's going to be a good year.
absolutely.
Um, Kind of broad, I know. Sorry, but
No, I I
yeah,
I respect that you have that limitation in your goals and what you're doing because I kind of feel that where you're like, I have goals for myself. I don't really want to share them because I don't want people to be disappointed if I can't reach them. But I also don't want to be disappointed myself because I like communicated
yeah.
that I'm gonna try to do
It's
something. So I
it's
think I definitely respect that.
it's totally about myself. Like I said, like it's. I mean, it sounds selfish, but like you have that macro goal, right?
Yeah.
And but then you have those micro goals. But I think if I said my micro goals out loud, it kind of defeats the purpose. And yeah, you don't want to create that stress for yourself. Also, I was reading if you say your goals to out loud to someone and to yourself, you get a dopamine hit because you kind of get a perception of what that could be.
Did you read that in
And if you
Atomic Habits?
yeah, yeah, that guy.
I'm reading
No,
it. James Clear. No.
no, it's maybe I know what you're talking about. Sorry, it's this guy. He's amazing. Let me just look it
I
up.
only asked that because I'm reading Atomic Habits right now. I've been reading it for
Right.
a while because I'm not the best at reading, but
I need to read it.
it's very good. It's super helpful. And he talks about that where if you say that you're going to do something, you're like preparing yourself to do it. It's almost like you feel like you've kind of accomplished part of it already, so you don't
Mm.
have to go for reach towards that goal. So it's super interesting. Obviously, it's about habits, but did you find where you read it before?
No, I can't remember, but yeah, it's totally that. Like, I think I'm super guilty of because I am so ambitious and excitable. Like,
Yeah,
I'll just tell people what I'm doing or what's coming up, and yeah, whether I realize it or not, it diminishes the action because you kind of you get that dopamine hit and you become a little bit less excited about it. So
yeah.
I think I wrote one of the things I wrote down this year was just fall in love with the process, fall in love with the art, and
Mm,
just like yeah, it's all the same thing, just different ways. Like just take those baby steps and just keep making things. keep trying to get better and treat. And then yeah, I just want to collaborate with good people and yeah, tell good
Absolutely.
stories.
Well, it sound you're on your way to do that, and we're at the start of the year, so there's plenty of time for you to reach out and collaborate with people. But it was
Thank you.
great. It was great having you on the show, man. I
Thanks,
really
man.
enjoyed hearing about just your lifestyle, what you're doing, what you're accomplishing, where you came from, your experience with the agency, with your agent, and I mean, talking about social media a bit. I think that that's a super helpful thing for people to hear nowadays because the more you hear that it makes a difference, like what you post and what
Mm,
your consistency, the more people will realize that it is true and that you can, grow from being consistent in your whatever you want to accomplish. So, yeah, man, it was great having you on the show. I'm really looking forward to following your journey and checking out Sunflower if I have a chance to watch it sometime. Definitely keep me
yeah,
posted with that.
I'll
But
definitely send it
yeah,
to you for sure.
is there
No, thank
anything else that you want to say to the people, the storytellers out there, the filmmakers? One last little
no.
bit of
Well, thanks for having me
advice.
on, Donovan. But I don't know, man. Just take the next step, whatever that is for you, no matter how small. Just just take that next step. Just read the script, take the photo, compose the shot, call call your crush. I don't know, like just your shirt says it right there. Seek discomfort, and even on the smallest scale, like if you're sitting around thinking about that creative thing you want to do, and you've been thinking about it for a week, you're not going to get better thinking about it. Just take the photo, realize it's probably crap, and take another one, and do that for a year, and that 356th photo is going to be 365 times better than the first photo. That's my
Yeah.
analogy.
Wonderful. Well, that's that analogy is actually in Atomic Habits.
Is it?
there is a
Dude, I
I'll
need to
send
read this book.
dude, I'll yeah, you have to check it out. There's an analogy
Maybe I
where
should write my own book.
yeah, maybe you should and then you're like, I didn't read any of these other books. This knowledge was just in my brain. I just know.
I feel
Um
like it's the knowledge is so universal once you
yeah,
crack the code. You know?
yeah. Well, thank you again.
Thank you.
Everyone go out and do the thing that you've been wanting to do. Keep on telling your story and we'll see you next time, storytellers. Bye-bye.